Okay, so Farnborough van and truck hire has been going over 30 years now. It was started back in Farnborough by Jim and his brother Colin, and they had a yard which they used to do general haulage from, and the guy who was in the yard next door said, oh, they'd just taken delivery of a new long wheelbase panel van for the haulage business, and he said, oh, can I borrow your van for a couple of days? So they said, you can. We're happy to rent it to you, and that's how it all started. So it started with one van. The guy ended up keeping it, and they bought another van for the haulage business, and then they rented that one as well. So Jim sort of spotted an opportunity around van hire, decided to take out an ad in the Thompson's pages and the Yellow pages, as it was back in the day, with no vehicles, and the phone just never stopped, just absolutely rang off the hook. So they were making loads of excuses about, you know, oh, they're all out and we're fully booked, and that's how it all begun, with sort of two vans and the Yellow pages really. Pro Hire was already part of the business. They had used it. Basically, it was like most of the smaller rental companies, was a manual rental system, handwritten rental agreements that Jim loved. I'm not sure the rental operators liked writing them all out every day, but Matthew, one of my colleagues, he engaged with Pro Hire and got that set up, because we realised that we had to move to some sort of digital platform, which he was absolutely right before I came. And I think through some due diligence and some shopping around, he ended up with Pro Hire. The Pro Hire team have always been really, really helpful, and we have used them probably too much through too little understanding, but always been patient and always offered their time and advice. And I think once we got Sharon in as our Pro Hire champion, who actually understood the system and learnt about it, saw some of the benefits of some of the functionality we weren't using. Once we got there, then we knew that we had a system that was going to take us forward, hence how we ended up like moving forward with Pro Hire Champion. So with Pro Hire Companion, Rachel demonstrated it to me, and it was at the time where we were having a real problem with accident damage management and recharges. And what we had the old manual handwritten outline of a vehicle that our fleet, we've got every single vehicle, every single shape and size you can imagine, with lots of ancillary equipment on there. And what a manual rental agreement didn't do was enable you to understand or to demonstrate to the customer what they might have done wrong, because all you can do is put a cross on there or a tick and make up some writing. And the drivers who were checking them in and out, you know, it's raining, it's windy, there's no one there to sign for it, and you're trying to do it in someone's yard in the dark, and you just stood no chance with recharges. So when I took the business over, our recharges were, compared to the amount of fleet we had, were literally zero. And I knew that there was an opportunity to make sure that the customers are paying for the damage that they had done, and up until that point they weren't. So when Pro Hire demonstrated Companion to me, it was sort of like the answer to my dreams really. A photographic evidence on a customer's premises or in one of our yards, if they were collecting, of an asset that they were just about to rent, with all the ancillary equipment that you can get out and demonstrate and take photographs. So you've got an absolutely live before and after comparison. And what we've noticed, at the end of every hire, we send the pictures regardless of whether there's any damage or not. Then you're able to then look at fair wear and tear, because that always comes into it. You know, these vehicles are here to be used. They are tools of the job, so you can't win it all. But when it's out and out damage and you need paying for it, you need to evidence it. So one of the benefits of Pro Hire Companion is when you're doing bespoke contract hire vehicles, like this one behind me, is on the day one when you check it out to the customer, we can go around with a tablet as previously demonstrated. When it comes to the end of its 2 or 3 year lease, whatever it's got to be, you can check it back in, and the customer has no room to argue because all your damage is captured. I think we went from a very minimal recharge position that generally ended up in an argument about how good the quality of the piece of paper was, to photographic evidence before and after, with reasonable costing and pricing associated with that damage. Our order number values on damage recharges, I would suggest it's 10% of the revenue per month, and that's huge. So the other opportunity that Pro Hire Companion gives us as a business is when we're renting out used vehicles that have already got bits of damage and wear and tear on there. Previously, before we had Companion, we were always in dispute with the customer about who done the scuff. Was it already on there or not? With the tablet, not only have you got the 6-dimensional pictures plus the cab picture, you can actually zoom in on individual bits of damage on checkout, so there's no argument about who done what with what part of the damage and what's chargeable and what's not. I can't remember how life was without Companion, so now we've got it, I can't ever lose it. It's that important to the business. It's probably, of all the changes that I had to make in the business, fundamentally that's the one that's changed my life, because that's the one that stopped us wasting money. Our business in the next 5 years, and sooner than that, probably in the next 6 to 12 months, with the expansion of the ULEZ zone in London, is going to be challenged, and that's all rental companies and van and truck. The government are putting pressure on people to move to alternative fuel vehicles to meet emissions, to stop them getting fined in certain cities, and London's always the first, but it will roll out throughout the country. And I think it's going to be a challenge for our industry, because it's very hard to create infrastructure when you're renting numbers of vehicles in order to meet the demands of, say, electric charging points, and also having enough power to enable people like us to do it. This estate alone, there isn't actually enough power generated to power the units that are on the premises without thinking about commercial vehicles. Plus, we're in a residential area, so if the residents are forced into car and vans to be electric alternative fuels and they need power, the infrastructure for somewhere like Portsmouth, for argument's sake, will need massive infrastructure and spend, and I am not sure where that's going to come from right now. So that's going to be a real challenge for the industry, and it's certainly a challenge for rental companies, because at the moment, if somebody needs to hire a vehicle, all we got to do is fill it up with petrol or diesel, and the vehicle's available for hire. If we're talking about electric and how we're going to charge it, and our electric bill changes every week, and the infrastructure around doing that, I think it's going to be a real challenge.
Hi everyone, I'm Molly from Pro Hire. I would just like to say a massive thank you to Tim for taking the time to see us today and discuss how he uses Pro Hire within his business. It was really lovely speaking to you and Sharon, and we look forward to seeing you both very soon. If you're watching this and you would like to participate in a case study, please feel free to drop me an email. It will be really great to speak to you. Thank you.